Hello knitters! In case you haven't seen it, there's a brand new Knitty! And yes, I'm pointing that out because I have a pattern in that issue. It's these socks that I made. The pattern description gives you a little bit of insight into the backstory, but if you don't really feel like reading that, I'll give you the highlights right now. So it all started on November the 11th, or the 10th. I don't know, it doesn't matter. It's one of those days. It was early November. I attended a webcast that Amy Singer was doing for Knitty Patrons. Patrons? What are we? Patrons? It's very confusing. I attended this webcast. If you don't know what that means, go read the letter from the editor on the Knitty site, and she'll kind of explain the whole Patreon thing to you. Yes, I realize I said I was going to give you highlights so you didn't have to read, and now I just told you to go read something. I'm just a paradox. During the webcast, someone asked Amy, how do you get a design into Knitty? So she was explaining the whole submission process. And she was also kind of touching on the whole aspect of crowdsourcing that Knitty does for their patterns, and that they don't have mood boards. They take what they get and choose the best from what's submitted. And sometimes that leads to surprises, like sometimes there's, an issue that's really a lot of shawls. And she also pointed out that, say for example, the first fall issue last year, there were no sock patterns that got submitted. And then Amy Singer said, "Did you hear that, Rich?" And then I hung my head in shame. I don't really like to wallow in shame, and my parents actually did a really effective job of teaching me that guilt is an effective motivator. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I started working on a sock design to submit to Knitty. So I pulled up my notebook and I drew some scribbles, which probably only would ever make sense to me. And then I converted those scribbles into a chart, the chart for, this stuff. And then spent a little bit of time staring at the chart, trying to figure out how to make that work for multiple sizes, because that's a thing for me. And thus a sock design was born. The next step was to try and find an appropriate yarn for a spring-summer issue. I just dug through my stash. I found this really great skein of Hazelnuts Piquant Light in the lichen colorway, or is it lichen? Lichen? Another word I can't pronounce. And then it was just a matter of getting it knitted and writing the pattern and taking the pictures and getting it all submitted by January 1st, while at the same time living through a kitchen renovation and 2 major holidays. Yeah, no pressure at all. Based on what I'm seeing on Ravelry, people seem to like it, which is good. I mean, it makes me happy. I like when people are happy, I'm happy, we're all happy. Happy is good. This is a cuff down pattern with a heel flap and a gusset. There's really nothing unusual about the construction. So if you wanted to swap the heel out for something else, you can do that. It won't break the pattern. You could probably also do these toe up if you wanted to. You would probably just want to, give a little bit of thought about what you're doing on the back of the leg when you get there. So if you're going to make these, there's just 2 things that I would point out to you just to kind of be aware of. Most top-down sock patterns, typically they'll start like right kind of here on the side. This pattern starts not quite, but almost exactly in the middle of the back of the leg, just a few stitches over. I just felt like the chart would be easier to follow if it started back there. So essentially that means that when you finish the leg, you're gonna have about 12 stitches that you're gonna need to work before you start the heel. It's not that hard. And then the other thing to keep in mind is that the cables, there's really 2 different motifs here. There's this one and then this stuff one over here. These don't travel the same way. This business in the middle is a typical Bavarian stitch motif, so the cables travel pretty much every round. Actually, there's one round where the Bavarian stitches don't travel on this sock, but that's not important. Where the rest of the cables, like these over here next to it, they don't travel every round. They actually are at rest every other round. So there are 2 reasons why I did that. The first one being just to make sure that this cable and this cable lined up, so that way they're both the same number of rows in each cable. Nothing is more frustrating than having like one cable take up 6 rounds and the other cable take up like 22 rounds, because then it's just a headache and confusing. The other reason that I did that is because as much as I like Bavarian stitches and I think they look really cool on socks, they don't have a lot of negative ease. They're not very stretchy. So by doing what I did, the sock is a little bit more stretchy. I think it'll be a little bit more comfortable and you'll have a better fit. I'll put the link to the pattern in the description wherever the links are on these YouTube things. So if you want to go make them, all you have to do is go to the link. The pattern's right there. Everything you need, well, not everything, you'll also need yarn, but just go get that and make them. You can make these socks if you want to participate in the Cal in my group. You can use these socks for that. I actually think that you might actually be able to use this for Sock Knitters Anonymous. I think the technique this month is cables. So these are cabled. So that would work. I mean, you don't have to do the Cal thing. I don't care. To each his own. Whatever makes you happy. I'm good with that. So yay, new sock pattern. I hope you like it. I like it. Other people seem to like it, so I hope you enjoy it. Thanks for watching. Now go knit something. Get it.